Two athletes, same sport, same era, same media attention. But one, Caitlin Clark, is rewriting the rules of commercial power, while the other, Angel Reese, is fading into silence. Clark just signed a $50 million Gatorade deal, launched her own signature flavor, and crashed a website so hard fans treated the error pages like a cultural event. Her Wilson signature line now sits in history's club with exactly one other athlete.
First thing I'm looking for is the young kids. Like, that's who I look to sign for more than anything. Young girls, young boys.
Michael Jordan. Reese, shoes in the bargain bin, sponsors hesitant, marketing all but vanished. This isn't about who's better on the court. It's about the one judgment no athlete can escape: the market. Money doesn't lie, and right now the numbers are screaming a story that goes far beyond basketball, far beyond headlines, and deep into what real influence and power look like in sports today. Crossover power. Clark makes history. Everything changes with Rainberry, because the Gatorade story is not just a headline, it is a case study in what genuine crossover commercial power actually looks like when it makes contact with the real world. Gatorade has been in the athlete endorsement business for decades. Michael Jordan drank it, LeBron James drank it, Serena Williams drank it. In that entire history, across all of those partnerships with some of the most recognizable athletes in American sports culture, not one product launch ever overwhelmed their servers. Not one. Then Caitlin Clark dropped Rainberry, and Gatorade's website went down before most people even had a chance to load the page.
Caitlin Clark there doesn't need to be a mania for Caitlin Clark to still literally go and crash a damn website.
Fans were posting screenshots of error messages like they were memorabilia. The product was gone. And the conversation around it was not just about basketball fans or WNBA followers. It was everywhere. Now think about what Gatorade actually committed to here. They did not put Clark's name on an existing product. They did not hand her a co-branded campaign or a limited seasonal colorway. They revived a flavor she loved growing up, built the color, the packaging, and the entire identity of the product around her specifically, and released it as her flavor. That is a permanent stock-keeping unit. It sits on shelves in retailers across the country. It gets reordered based on how fast it moves. It either has commercial legs or it does not. And the answer to that question was delivered within minutes of launch. The $50 million partnership figure is significant enough on its own, but the structure of the deal is the real story. Gatorade has an established roster of athletes. They did not need to make this move. They have options. They looked at their entire lineup and decided Clark was the one who earned a signature flavor.
You've had, I saw there was a sign of a little girl who drove from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
That decision does not come from a marketing meeting driven by social media follower counts. It comes from retail data, from audience analysis, from the kind of systematic tracking that a company like Gatorade does across thousands of outlets nationwide. And what that data told them was something specific. The demand for Caitlin Clark is coming from outside the core sports fan base. People who do not watch the WNBA, people who had never bought a Clark jersey or followed her on Instagram, were picking up that Gatorade bottle at checkout. That is crossover appeal in its most measurable form. And that is the thing every major brand is chasing, and almost no athlete actually delivers. Clark delivered it at a level that crashed a Fortune 500 company's servers on a product launch day. A $50 million deal with a signature flavor attached. A website that could not keep up. A product gone before the initial surge even peaked. That is not a moment. That is a market verdict. From rookie to global influence. The Gatorade deal is the most recent chapter, but to understand what is actually happening with Clark's commercial trajectory, you need to look at the full picture. Because individually, each deal is impressive. Together, they form something that simply does not have a precedent in the history of women's sports. Start with Nike. The deal is reported at $28 million over 8 years.
And I talked to Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour, and they all offered me a signature shoe, obviously some faster than others.
Which makes it the largest endorsement contract ever secured by a WNBA player with a footwear brand. That number alone would be the story for most athletes. But the more important detail is what is coming next. Clark's first signature shoe is expected to drop in 2026. Nike has built entire brand empires on signature shoes. The Jordan brand, which started as a single shoe line attached to a single athlete in 1985, still generates over $1 billion annually. Nike does not replicate that infrastructure for athletes they are not absolutely certain about. Clark's shoe has not even hit shelves yet, and analysts are already projecting it sells out within minutes of release. Then there is Wilson Sporting Goods. Wilson does not give out signature lines. That is not how they operate historically. They are one of the most established sporting goods companies in the world, and they are extraordinarily selective about which athletes get their name permanently attached to a product line. The last time they did it before Clark was Michael Jordan, not a recent star, not someone from the last decade, Michael Jordan, the athlete whose commercial legacy literally redefined what it means to build a sports brand.
Michael Jordan. Guard with possession. Nice cross-court feed. Jordan going in, throws it up.
Clark is now in that category, not because people are comparing their basketball careers, but because Wilson made the same category of business decision for her that they made for him. A signature line is not a seasonal campaign. Wilson is manufacturing, distributing, and marketing products under Clark's name on an ongoing basis. Act that as a permanent line item in their business. And brands do not create permanent line items unless they believe in the long-term commercial durability of the athlete attached to them. State Farm carries equal weight when you examine it carefully. State Farm has been in sports marketing for a very long time. They have worked with male athletes across football, baseball, and basketball across multiple decades. They had never brought in a female athlete, not once, until Clark. That is not a gap they filled randomly or because someone in their marketing department had a gut feeling. State Farm has layers of consumer data telling them which partnerships actually move the needle for their business. They analyzed all of that data and decided Clark's audience was worth reaching. Sonri, that is a meaningful decision from a brand that does not make meaningful decisions carelessly. Nike, State Farm, Wilson, Gatorade. These are not small companies chasing a trending moment. These are four of the most established commercial names in American culture, and every single one of them made a long-term financial commitment to Clark within roughly the same 2-year window. When institutions that size move that fast and that consistently in the same direction, they are not reacting to hype. They are positioning for the next decade based on data they trust. Clark's off-court earnings in her rookie season alone were $11.1 million.
Million people tuned in to watch as former Iowa guard Caitlin Clark was drafted by the Indiana Fever.
No first-year WNBA player had ever posted a number anywhere near that, not even close. Sportico named her the highest-paid player in the entire league. And keep in mind, where Clark is still on a rookie-scale contract, her on-court salary is not what is driving that number to the top. Her endorsement portfolio is so substantial that it places her above every other player in the league, regardless of their contract size. That is an extraordinary signal. It means the market is paying Clark at a level that makes her base salary almost irrelevant to the total commercial picture. Forbes then named her the most powerful female athlete on the planet, not in the WNBA, not in basketball. On the planet, among active athletes across all sports, Clark sits at the top. That is not a compliment. That is a finding based on sponsorship value, audience reach, economic impact, and how much an athlete's influence actually converts in the real world. The brands voted, Forbes voted, Sportico voted, the fans crashed a website, and the picture is not ambiguous.
Where young fans want to be more like Caitlin, not Mike.
Reese, retail, and the market. A signature shoe is supposed to be a statement. It is the moment a brand plants their flag in the ground and says to the entire market, this athlete is our bet. This is who we believe in enough to attach our name to permanently. It is not a casual decision. It is not a seasonal campaign that expires when the calendar turns. It is a brand committing its manufacturing, its distribution network, its marketing budget, and its public identity to the proposition that this specific athlete represents something durable and commercially real. Angel Reese's Reebok signature shoe was announced with exactly that energy.
Jordan, Reese's Reeboks are the shoes that fans want to get their hands on, or maybe I should say feet in.
When Reebok signed Reese in 2024, the rollout was loud and deliberate. The timing was not accidental. One Clark's Nike deal had just been announced, and the sports media landscape was saturated with conversation about what her commercial trajectory represented for women's basketball. Reebok stepped into that conversation with their own announcement, positioning the Reese partnership as their answer, their stake in the ground, their declaration that the women's game had more than one commercially significant star, and they had found her. The announcement generated significant media coverage. Reese was visible, vocal, and confident about what the partnership represented. Reebok framed it as a meaningful moment for the brand's return to relevance in women's sports, a space they had largely been absent from for years. The narrative around the deal was constructed carefully, and it landed with the kind of initial noise that made it feel like the beginning of something substantial. Then the shoe actually hit shelves, and the silence that followed was deafening. Within months of the release, something that no brand wants to see began happening at major retailers across the country. Discount pricing, not a strategic promotional markdown tied to a new colorway release or a seasonal clearance cycle. Persistent structural discounting at outlets like DSW and other major footwear retailers, the kind that appears when inventory is sitting and not moving, and the retailer needs to recover floor space and capital. In the footwear industry, that specific signal has one meaning, and everyone in the business understands it immediately. Demand did not meet supply. The consumer urgency that was supposed to be there was not. There were no wait lists, no sellout announcements, no fans posting screenshots of error pages or sharing links before stock disappeared. The cultural moment that a signature shoe launch is supposed to generate simply did not materialize in any measurable form. Compare that directly to what is happening with Clark's upcoming Nike signature shoe, which as of early 2026 does not yet have a confirmed release date.
Contract with Nike. The Indiana Fever guard would also get to create her own signature shoe with the deal.
Analysts are already projecting it sells out within minutes of dropping. Sports retail tracking firms are modeling demand scenarios based on the velocity of Clark's existing Nike merchandise. Nike is actively building marketing infrastructure around a product that consumers cannot even purchase yet. The anticipation exists before the product does. Now that contrast is not subtle. It is the difference between a brand confidently accelerating into a launch and a brand quietly stepping back from one. Reebok's marketing activity around the Reese shoe tells the fuller story. In the months following the release, the promotional cadence that typically surrounds a signature athlete partnership slowed dramatically. Social campaigns became sparse, the kind of sustained brand storytelling that Nike, Adidas, and other major footwear companies maintain around their signature athletes. The content, the athlete appearances, the product narrative building largely went quiet. For a partnership that was announced as a significant strategic move, the institutional enthusiasm evaporated with a speed that was noticeable to anyone tracking it. That pullback is not a communication strategy. Brands do not go silent on investments they are confident in. They go silent when internal reassessment is happening and the reassessment is not producing optimistic conclusions. But the sales numbers are only part of what drove that reassessment. The other part is something the footwear industry calls association risk, and it is the factor that does not show up in a retail sales report, but shows up very clearly in brand perception studies, in consumer sentiment tracking. Major brands monitor what their sponsored athletes are associated with in public discourse. Not just whether the athlete is popular, but what emotion, what context, what kind of cultural conversation surrounds their name when consumers encounter it. What Reebok's monitoring would have been tracking throughout 2024 and into 2025 was a consistent pattern of public behavior that kept generating controversy without generating the kind of positive brand association that justifies a long-term commercial relationship.
Gainbridge, the ultimate assist for your savings. But ever since they teamed up,
Repeated social media commentary that circled back to Clark across different contexts and different timeframes. Brand announcements that read as reactive rather than originating from an independent commercial identity. Public statements that produced headlines but not goodwill. Brands have risk assessment teams whose entire professional function is to model exactly this kind of reputational pattern and project where it leads over a 3 to 5 year horizon. What those teams apparently concluded about the Reese partnership is reflected most honestly not in any public statement, because brands rarely make public statements about these reassessments, but in the marketing budget allocations that followed. The shoe is marked down. The marketing dried up. The brand has gone quiet. In the footwear business, that combination has only one translation. The bet did not pay off. And right now, there is no visible evidence that the next chapter of this story looks different from the one that just ended. Clark dominates beyond the court. Here is the thing about commercial power that most people fundamentally misunderstand. It is not about who is loudest. It is not about who generates the most controversy or who dominates the conversation on a given Tuesday afternoon. It is about what happens when a real consumer stands in a store aisle or opens a browser or pulls out a credit card. That moment, repeated millions of times across thousands of different contexts, is where reputations built on social media either convert into actual economic value or quietly reveal themselves as noise. And the market has been sending a very clear signal about Caitlin Clark for 2 years now. When Clark completed her first WNBA season with the Indiana Fever in 2024, the numbers that came back were not gradual or modest. They were immediate and they were structural. The Fever's average home attendance jumped by over 30% compared to the previous season. Road games in cities that had never sold out a WNBA fixture were selling out weeks in advance, specifically because Clark was on the visiting roster. ESPN and other broadcast partners reported viewership increases for WNBA games that the league had not seen in its entire history. The Commissioner's Cup Final in 2024 drew television numbers that prompted serious conversations inside network boardrooms about what the league's broadcast rights were actually worth going forward. That last detail matters more than most people realize. Television rights are not priced on emotion. They are priced on audience size, demographic composition, and how reliably that audience shows up across a full season rather than just for marquee games. When networks start reassessing the value of broadcast rights for an entire league because of what one player is doing to the ratings, that is structural commercial impact. That is not a moment, that is a shift. When Nike watched all of that data accumulate in real time and made their decision in the same window. $28 million over 8 years.
Clark will soon be signing an 8-year, $28 million contract with Nike.
The largest footwear endorsement in WNBA history, with a signature shoe in development before her second season had even begun. Nike's signature shoe program is not handed out generously. The athletes who have received it represent a very short list of people the brand believes can carry an entire product line on the strength of their personal commercial identity. Nike built their modern empire on that bet with Michael Jordan in 1985. They do not replicate the infrastructure unless the data gives them sufficient confidence to justify it. The State Farm decision carries its own specific weight in this context. In 2024, State Farm became the first brand in their own history to sign a female athlete to an endorsement deal. They had been in sports marketing for decades. They had worked with Patrick Mahomes, Chris Paul, and Aaron Rodgers. They had never crossed that threshold with a woman. That is not a threshold you cross casually after decades of deliberate avoidance. State Farm's consumer research would have been exhaustive before that decision was made. They would have surveyed their existing customer base, modeled the demographic overlap with Clark's audience, tested brand association studies across different market segments, and run the projections on whether the partnership would move their core business metrics. They did all of that and came out the other side writing the check. Then came the Gatorade launch in early 2026. And what happened there removed the last remaining question about whether Clark's commercial appeal was real or manufactured. Gatorade's internal data after the Rainberry launch showed something specific and measurable. The purchase velocity was not coming exclusively from sports fans or WNBA followers. It was coming from general consumers, people whose purchase history had no particular connection to basketball or to Clark's existing fan base, who were picking up the bottle because the cultural moment around it had broken through into mainstream awareness. That is the measurement that separates genuine crossover appeal from a loyal fan base making coordinated purchases. Gatorade's own retail tracking confirmed it. The demand was broad, it was fast, and it came from outside the expected audience boundaries. That is what the market actually rewards, not volume, not visibility, not controversy. The thing that moves major brands from hesitation to commitment is evidence that an athlete can reach people who were not already looking for them. Clark has been producing that evidence consistently for 2 years. The market noticed before the headlines did. The numbers have spoken. The website crashed. The shoes sold out. The flavor keeps flying off shelves. The market has issued its verdict quietly, relentlessly, without bias. And yet, in the shadows of that success, questions linger. How far can this momentum carry Caitlin Clark before the ceiling finally appears? Can Angel Reese or anyone shift the trajectory, or is the gap now permanent? The story isn't over. It's only just beginning. And the next chapter will test everything the market has revealed so far.